The building always felt different at night. During the day, Harrington Corporate Tower was loud, fast, and full of people trying to prove something. Voices echoed, keyboards clicked endlessly, and decisions were made with confidence that often came from titles rather than truth. But at night, it slowed down, and that's when the real behavior showed. Elias Turner pushed his cleaning cart quietly down the hallway, the soft squeak of its wheels echoing against the glass walls. His movements were steady, controlled, almost invisible to anyone who wasn't paying attention. Most people never did. To them, he was just the janitor. Someone who came after hours. Someone who cleaned up their mess. Someone who didn't matter. Earlier that same evening, before the office had emptied, Elias had been wiping down a conference table when a group of employees walked in mid-conversation. "I'm telling you, they only hired him because they needed diversity numbers," one man said casually, not even lowering his voice. Another laughed. "Yeah, no way he actually qualified for that role." Elias kept wiping the table. No reaction, just listening. Because listening was part of his job, not the job they thought he had, but the one that actually mattered. A woman stepped around him, clearly annoyed. "Can you finish this later? We have a meeting." Elias nodded. Of course. He moved his cart out, without a word. Behind him, one of the men muttered, "These guys always get in the way." Elias heard it. He always heard everything. But he never argued, never corrected, never reacted, because his role required silence, observation, precision. For the past 3 months, Elias Turner had been working inside Harrington Corporate Tower under a false position. Officially, he was part of the night cleaning staff. Unofficially, he was the senior ethics auditor sent directly from headquarters. No one in the building knew, not management, not HR, not even the acting CEO. His assignment was simple, on paper, evaluate workplace culture. But in reality, it meant something deeper. Observe how people behave when they believe no one important is watching. And in that building, they believed exactly that. The next day, things didn't look different. But Elias noticed everything. Patterns were forming. Repeated behavior. Same people. Same attitudes. Same assumptions. In the break room, 2 employees spoke loudly while he wiped down the counter. "I'm not working under her," one said. "She only got promoted because of her background." The other nodded. "Yeah, company's trying too hard to look good." Elias wrote nothing down. Not physically, but mentally. Everything was stored, categorized, connected. Later that afternoon, an intern dropped a stack of papers near the hallway. They scattered across the floor. People walked past, ignored it. Elias stepped forward quietly and helped pick them up. The intern looked surprised. "Thank you," she said softly. Elias nodded. That moment mattered too. Because respect wasn't only about what people did wrong. It was also about who did things right. Days passed, weeks passed, and the report built itself. Not from one big moment, but from hundreds of small ones. Then came the incident that changed everything. A senior executive, Daniel Reeves, walked into the lobby one morning visibly frustrated. His meeting had gone badly, and he carried that frustration with him. As he passed Elias, who was cleaning near the entrance, he accidentally brushed against the cart. The bucket tipped slightly. Water spilled onto the polished floor. Daniel stopped, looked down, then looked at Elias. "This is exactly why standards are dropping," he said sharply. Elias responded calmly. "I'll clean it right away." Daniel shook his head. "You people always say that." The words hung in the air. Several employees nearby heard it. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked away. Elias didn't respond. But that moment, that exact sentence, locked something into place. Because that wasn't just frustration. That was exposure. That was belief showing itself without control. That night, Elias stayed longer than usual, not cleaning, finalizing the report, every observation, every pattern, every behavior, every name, every department, categorized with precision, not emotional, not exaggerated, just truth. At 8 a.m. the next morning, an email went out to the entire company. Mandatory meeting, all staff, main conference hall, immediate attendance required, no explanation. Panic spread quickly. What's going on? Is this layoffs? Did something happen? By 9 a.m., the room was full. Executives in front, employees behind. Whispers everywhere. Then the doors opened. But instead of the usual leadership, Elias walked in, still in janitor uniform, still calm, still quiet. Confusion spread instantly. What is he doing here? Did they call cleaning stuff? Elias walked to the front, placed a black folder on the table, labeled Confidential Ethics Report. The room slowly went silent. A senior board member entered behind him, followed by 2 officials from headquarters. That's when people realized something was very wrong. The board member spoke first. For the past 3 months, this company has been under internal review. Silence. This review was conducted without your knowledge. More silence. Then he gestured toward Elias. This is Elias Turner. A pause. Senior ethics auditor. The room froze. Completely. Because the man they had ignored was the one who had been watching everything. Elias opened the folder slowly, looked at the room, and for the first time, he spoke with authority. For 3 months, I observed how this company functions when accountability is absent. His voice was calm, controlled, but impossible to ignore. I did not evaluate your performance. A pause. I evaluated your behavior. No one moved. No one spoke. Because now, every moment they thought didn't matter, suddenly did. And the consequences were about to begin. The silence in the conference hall didn't break. It deepened. The kind of silence that doesn't come from confusion anymore, but from realization. Elias Turner stood at the front, one hand resting lightly on the black folder, his posture calm, his presence now impossible to ignore. The same man people had walked past without a second thought was now the center of the entire room, and no one knew how to react. The board member stepped aside, giving him full control of the room. That alone said everything. Elias looked across the crowd slowly, not rushing, not dramatic, just observing them the same way he had for months. Only this time, they knew it. For 3 months, he said, his voice steady and clear. I worked in this building under the assumption that I was invisible. A pause. And for the most part, that assumption was correct. A few people lowered their eyes instantly, because they knew, they remembered, moments they thought were small, comments they thought were harmless, actors they didn't think twice about. Elias opened the folder. The sound alone echoed louder than it should have. Inside were pages organized, structured, undeniable. This report, he continued, does not focus on isolated incidents. He looked up briefly. It focuses on patterns. That word hit differently. Because patterns couldn't be dismissed as accidents. Patterns meant repetition, choice, behavior becoming habit. Elias turned the first page. Department A. He read calmly. Consistent interruption of junior staff during meetings. Selective engagement based on perceived authority. A few heads turned in that direction. No one spoke. Department C. He continued. Multiple instances of dismissive language toward support staff, recorded across different time frames. More tension. A man in the middle shifted uncomfortably. Elias flipped another page. Senior management level, he said. Use of coded language, implying bias in promotion discussions. A low whisper started somewhere, then quickly died, because no one wanted to be heard reacting. Elias closed the folder slightly. This is not about embarrassment, he said. A pause. It's about exposure. He let that settle, because exposure changes everything. It removes the safety people feel when they believe their actions don't matter. A woman near the front finally spoke, her voice careful. This isn't fair. We didn't know we were being evaluated. Elias looked at her, calm, direct. That's exactly why the evaluation is valid. The room tightened again, because that answer left no room for argument. If behavior only changes when people know they're being watched, Elias continued, then the behavior itself is not genuine. Silence, pure and heavy. Another employee spoke, trying a different angle. But everyone has bad days. You can't judge an entire company on moments. Elias nodded slightly. You're right, he said. A small wave of relief moved through the room. Then he added, that's why I didn't. The relief vanished instantly. I judged patterns, he repeated. A pause. Consistent behavior across time. No one spoke again. Because the defense had collapsed. Elias stepped away from the table slightly, walking slowly across the front of the room. Every step controlled, measured. I saw employees ignore people who couldn't benefit them, he said. Another step. I saw respect given upward and withheld downward. Another step. I saw decisions influenced by perception before performance was even considered. Each sentence hit like a quiet weight. No shouting, no anger, just truth. And truth didn't need volume to be powerful. Elias stopped walking, turned back toward them, and I saw something else. A pause. Moments where people chose to do the right thing, even when no one was watching. That shifted the energy slightly. Because it wasn't all condemnation. It was balanced, real. Those moments matter, he said, because they show that change is possible. The room listened differently now. Not defensive, not reactive, just aware. The board member stepped forward again briefly. Based on this report, he said, headquarters will be implementing immediate structural changes. The word immediate caused visible tension. Certain leadership positions will be reviewed, he continued. Promotions will be reassessed, and some roles will be terminated. That last sentence landed heavily. No one moved, because now the consequences were no longer abstract. They were real. Elias remained still. He didn't react to the announcement, because his role wasn't to punish, it was to reveal. A man near the back suddenly stood up. His voice was shaky. I made a comment last week, he admitted. I didn't think anyone heard it. Elias looked at him, and for the first time, there was a slight shift in his expression. Not anger, not satisfaction, just acknowledgement. That's how most of these patterns start, Elias said. A pause, thinking no one hears. The man sat down slowly, the weight of that moment settling over him. Elias closed the folder completely now. This report is finished, he said. But what happens next? Isn't silence again, because now the responsibility had shifted from him to them. You don't need me to tell you what needs to change, he continued. You've already seen it. A pause. The question is whether you're willing to act on it. No one answered, because the answer wasn't something you say, it's something you prove. Elias stepped back from the center, his role in that moment complete. But before leaving, he said one last thing, his voice quieter now, but somehow stronger. Respect is not a policy. A pause. It's a decision you make when you think it doesn't matter. That line stayed in the air long after he stopped speaking. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. No one laughed this time. No one ignored him. No one looked away, because now they finally saw him, not as a janitor, not as an auditor, but as the person who showed them exactly who they were when they thought no one was watching. And that realization was far more powerful than any punishment could ever be.